Hello, everybody. I'm Ed Parcaut here of Helping the Brave, your host, and let's bring in our guest today, Healey Ikerd. How you doing today?
Good, Ed. How are you?
I'm doing great. I get to
Good.
talk to people a lot, so it's actually works out for me because that's what I do for a living. I own a mortgage company, so I tell people stories across multiple mediums. So I do it across everything. So
That's nice.
yeah. Well, it's the best part of my day is talking to people, getting to understand why they do the things they do. The thing that got me into trouble when I'm at parties and stuff, my wife would grab my leg. I can do now and not get in trouble.
And she can't grab your leg, right?
But you know what I'm talking about. Like, hi. It's like I want to know why people voted the way they did, what they did, and it's not to knock them. I just want to understand how people tick.
Yes, I'm with you. I think that that's in psychology, that's like we do wonder that. And I've always been interested in that too. I'm a secret fan of reality TV for that reason.
Hmm. So I always thought they went in psychology so they could figure out themselves.
Yeah. Well,
Those were just
probably people
those were
do.
just my girlfriends I used to have years ago.
I didn't enter for that reason, but
All right. So
yeah.
first question, the only question, we already talked about this. What service did you pick and why did you pick that service?
Well, go Army. I
Go
went to
Navy.
the Army. I have a lot of family in the Navy, so I'm good with Navy. Um, but
I have
the
a son in the Army. I'm good with Army. So don't worry
yeah,
about it.
I mean, who cares which branch, right? They're all great in their own ways. I joined the Army really at the urging of a friend. I didn't know much about it, so I don't really have a noble reason for joining. Although I have, a noble reason for staying because I loved serving my country. But yeah, a friend talked me into it. I was 17 at the time, so my parents had to actually sign the paperwork to say okay.
But you could get married in Arkansas at that age.
Maybe I'm not sure. I'm not sure the age,
Back then,
but
16.
that's a stereotype, Ed.
Sorry, I have to have fun. All right. So did you go in as an officer or did you go in enlisted when you were in?
I went to the Army
Gross.
Reserve first
Okay.
and went in just as a private, and then start after I got back from basic and AIT. I about 6 months later went to college and did college all through and did um, stayed in the reserve. I really it's interesting because being in the military was really different then. I didn't tell a lot of people I was in the military. My friends knew, but most other people, like,
90s?
I would say, yeah.
Was it the 90s?
Yeah, late 80s and
I was gonna
90s.
say probably, yeah, 80.
Yeah. I
Might
went
have been
active duty in 93.
okay.
Was it 93? I think so.
Right after the
But yeah.
Iraq war started and everything.
Yeah, I entered right when Somalia was coming to an end because they ended up sending me over there for a couple months. Um, I got stationed at Fort Drum in New York, and it this is an interesting story. They thought I was a man because my name is not really you can't really tell, and so they assigned me to the infantry unit there, not realizing that I was a woman. So when I showed up, they were quite shocked. And it was a little bit of old school. So they really gave me a hard time when I was there and ended up, which my theory is that's why they sent me to Somalia because I hadn't even been there 30 days and they sent me off. Um, so, and then gave me a hard time there. Anyway, that's a whole nother story, but times were different then.
Well, it's so I'm gonna talk about so I joined in 85, got out right before the Iraq war, before 2 days. I got lucky. And I got my
Yeah.
bachelor's and master's while I was doing in.
Mhm.
But or I should say I finished my master's 1 year after I got out. But when I was in San Diego, there were signs on people's lawns that said, "Keep your sailor and your dog off our grass." So when you're
Wow.
talking about a different time,
Mhm.
when I was in San Diego during that period of time, I could have swore they hated us, right? They did
Mhm.
not want us here, but it was a different time, just like you said. Not until 9/11 did the whole thing change of who they really want you there. And then
Mhm.
recently it's kind of went back the other way in the last 4 years. I'm not picking on administration, but that's just is how we feel.
Mhm.
And especially as vets who are committing suicide at 50 a day, I know that's how they feel.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and females in the military were a whole thing too. So it was just, yeah, not that's actually when I entered the service was in 85. So
So you understand. And it
yeah,
was a different time. So, and I was
it
in the
was
Navy
different.
at Camp Pendleton, stationed at Camp Pendleton. No issue because I was in the medical field. When you went in as enlisted, what did you go in as?
Private,
I know, but what was
is
your
that
specialty?
MOS?
Your MO?
Uh, yeah, 71 Lima, which is administrative specialist, and my reserve unit, we had to get an identifier, which was Foxtrot 5, which was a postal clerk. So when we were in the reserve, we would go to different places and help them with their mail, you know, processing and
Some
sorting and that sort of
exciting
thing.
stuff.
It was I mean, people love their mail in the military. I mean, now not so
Yeah.
much, but
Well,
then we
especially
were like,
deployed.
people
Yeah.
loved us.
Yeah. And
But
especially if they're deployed or in boot
mhm.
camp or whatever. They really want it because they
Yeah,
don't talk to anybody. It's different
yeah,
today because everybody has phones, but back then we
mhm,
didn't have phones. There was the
yeah,
payphones outside that you had to use.
yeah. We went to Korea twice, and I know that, when you're overseas, especially, mail was a big thing also. So, we even went out to, California for a couple weeks. I think we were I was trying to think um what, duty station we went to, but I can't remember.
Was
I
it
was
Northern
very
Cal?
young. I was like 18 when we went out there, so that's kinda a
So,
long
yeah,
time
you don't
ago.
know the name of the base, then I take it at the
Yeah,
time.
that's what I was trying to think of. We don't, um I don't ever
'Cause we
remember
don't have
seeing
many
it
of
in
them left. We don't have many of
yeah.
them here
It seemed like it was San Diego, or
where
somewhere
everybody usually
close to
goes.
there, yeah, but
Yeah.
I can't really remember. It may have been Air Force. I can't remember, but
Because
anyway,
Army
we
and
did
Air
go out
Force
there.
are so connected that you guys have a ton of joint bases. So,
Mhm. Yeah.
and a lot of people don't understand why that happened, but when the Army pushed off the Air Corps, they turned it into the Air Force, just like the Navy created the Marines. Even though the Marines don't think they're a department of the Navy, but their checks say they are. So
You gotta
they're
keep
my
them
buddies.
straight,
I'm at
Ed.
Camp Pendleton. No, well,
But
I
it's
was a
true,
doc
yeah.
at Camp Pendleton with the Marines. Marines are my
Mhm.
people. I'm
Yeah,
more connected to Marines than they are Navy people. That's
yeah.
how the difference is. Yeah.
When I was I got stationed at NATO in Italy, when I was in active duty, and close to there was a naval base, and that's when I learned that the Marines were related to the related, is that a good word? Related to the Navy, and actually did my reenlistment on a Navy ship too.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I didn't know until I was watching an Army Navy game and they were showing what the people were going to go into, and one said this one's going in the Marine Corps. I was like, what the heck?
Hmm.
And everybody's like, I said that on a podcast years ago, and the guy he was drinking a beer, he dropped a beer. Um, because he laughed, I said, hey, I was naive. I was a
Oh,
dirt road poor, kid because my dad died of hairy cell leukemia. So I didn't had no idea what I was doing when I was joining the Navy.
exactly, and yeah, you kinda learn as you go, and then, begin to understand, and then you make choices versus, just kinda going in naive. I had no idea what was going on. My recruiter, I mean, he was like, "Yeah, it's kind of like, a summer camp, just a little bit longer and lots of exercise." And
That's boot
man, I
camp,
was
or was that like time in the service?
hmm?
What was he saying? That was boot camp or time
That
in the
was
service?
boot yeah, that was boot
Okay.
camp. So, I was kind of angry, when we're low crawling through wood chips and stuff and
Yeah.
your legs are burning from running 10,000 miles. I mean, give me a break.
And that's when they made you do it. My son's in now. I went to his boot camp after he graduated. He's like, Dad, you'll never understand what they just start crying and they tell him to go sit down and whatever. They don't have to do their marching.
Wow.
Yeah.
Because I had drill sergeants, I mean, they would threaten to hit me, like, with the weapon and stuff, and yeah, you really thought they would.
Right.
I
Well,
mean, we
that's the
didn't know they couldn't, but
yeah.
I
Well, I
thought
did.
they could
I
yeah,
did.
I thought they would.
No,
So
it's just I knew it was a game when I went in. It's a game and it's always a game, but that's why things, we'll get into your whole psychology, but that's why things need to go back the way they were. Military is for military purposes only, not to appease everybody's feelings. It needs to go back to how it used to be. I'm
Yes.
not saying beat people up, but if you can't make it, you need to go somewhere else.
Yeah.
That's why they have those other services that you go and you help people out with, giving them stuff. Where I forget what that's called.
Yeah.
Not Red Cross,
Peace
but
Peace Corps.
yeah, there you go. That's
Mhm.
where you go if you have to cry.
Yeah, that's right. Well, and that's the thing, like, because I mean, I was um, a young girl and I didn't have much confidence in myself. I didn't have much of a voice, and I really feel like through basic and AIT, that is literally where they tore me down to nothing, even less than what I was, and then built me back up to be a better person, a stronger person, a more confident person, and I thank the Army for that. Um, so I'm appreciative that they were that way, even though it was scary and hard, and yeah, I
Yeah.
was fearful most of the time.
And I didn't realize how big the Army was till my son joined it, and I was like, "Wow, you guys are huge,"
Mhm.
and then what they have to go through. So, all right, so you went in as enlisted, then you went to school. Did you go to school to be a psychologist? Is that what you are?
No, I studied broadcast journalism as an my undergraduate degree when I was stationed. Okay, so I got about 7.5 years through the Army Reserve, and then I had graduated college and decided, hey, I think I'll go try to do this broadcast thing in active duty, and so I joined the Army, but active duty, but they didn't let me change my MOS. So I stayed administrative specialist and got stationed different places. But while I was working for NATO, I got a master's degree in. It was from OU. It was in human relations, and they had a few counseling courses within that program, and that's where it kind of piqued my interest of like, oh, this is something that I like, and some of the instructors were complimentary of me during some of those courses, so it kind of piqued my interest. So when I actually got out of the military, I pursued that further.
So when you joined back up, full time as active duty, did you become an officer, or they kept you as enlisted?
I stayed enlisted. I don't know. Everybody kept urging me to go to OCS, but um, not long after I had went active duty, I got pregnant and then was a single parent in the military. And so it was really because you have to go to school for a while, and I really didn't wanna leave my son, so that was one of the reasons, and plus, I kind of wanted to be different, like, I wanted to be an educated enlisted person, so, yeah.
No, there's nothing wrong with it. It's just
No,
that's why
you
everybody
get
asks
paid more.
a lot more,
I woulda get I
and
thought,
everybody
yeah,
salutes
it
you.
would have been a hard life.
There's less people you have to salute also.
Right,
There's
that's
more that have to
true.
salute you. And then you could turn the tides on them because, "This is what you did to me when I was enlisted. This is
That's
what I'm doing to
right.
you now as an officer. Stand over
That's
there
right.
and shut up."
I'd have probably been nicer though, because I understand.
That's right. Alright, so you put in the time. Looking back, is what stands out the most to you looking back at your time in the service?
Well, during my time in there, it did seem really hard, but it really gave me a lot of opportunities. I grew as a person. I learned how to, you know, talk and not be so shy, and kind of grew in my confidence, and one of the things that I had loved to do since I was young was travel, and the military offered me that, when I was stationed in Italy, I got to go to a lot of different countries around there, and so it was wonderful. So that was probably my best duty station, even though it was really hard because I mean, my family's, in the States, and I'm over there by myself with my son, and it was just really hard, but it was very rewarding too because I got to do a lot of wonderful things and see lots of things, and so
Hmm.
Yep.
So, your family didn't come over to Italy? I mean, you're in Italy. Hello.
I know.
We were like, we're waiting for our son to get deployed, to get stationed there.
Right.
He
No,
was
my
Alaska
mom did come.
and Washington. Yeah.
Yeah, my mom came once. She's a traveler, so she did come and, stay a little bit with me, but for the most part, yeah, nobody came to see me.
I'm sorry. I don't want you to start crying.
Well, I didn't really think anything of it because, our family, other than my mom, they're not really travelers. They didn't really do that. I just didn't think anything much about it, just that it was hard, and I got to go home once a year and spend about 30 days there, so, it was fine to me.
And
It's
that
just hard, but
right. And that's the best thing about being in the military, the time off. You get a lot of time off.
mhm, it was wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is a perk
Yeah. Just a
for
little.
those looking to join.
Well, I'm saying it's a great way to get education. It's a great the benefits of it so much. And one of the things that people don't do is when they get out, they don't apply for disability because they think we're perfect. There's nothing wrong with us. That pain, it's not a big deal. I can deal with it. But you sign on the line to protect our country. Whatever happened to you while you were in, you need to get paid for going forward. And the problem was back in the 80s when you got out, nobody really helped you until even the 90s and then the 2000s. And now there's so many people trying to help vets get their disability and doing it right. There's a lot of companies charge, and there's other companies who walk you through it and charge a lot less. And I ran into one of them that will be coming out here shortly. And I talked to them about helping get mine up. And it's amazing how easy it really is when people know what
Hmm.
they're doing. So if you have,
Hmm.
and this is for everybody, if you have not put in for your disability or like, I don't need to, it's amazing how much money you can get and the benefits you can receive once you do get rated with a disability. And even if it's a lower, a 10% or 50%, you need to go back and have it adjusted. So yeah, I'll
Well,
get off my
good
soapbox.
advice.
When you got out, did you apply for disability at all?
No, I mean, I do have a few damaged things, but and recently I saw that they were talking about the burn pits, and I did because I was that was one of my duties was standing over the burn pit in Somalia and churning the fire in the hole.
Wow.
But yeah, they didn't really follow up with me about that,
They
so
don't.
I just
They don't.
kind of let it go. I
They
mean, I'm
don't.
not suffering any issues, so
There you are.
I am.
Well, what I'm getting at is you just talked about it. You don't know. So here's what happened. So,
That's
and
true.
this is not, and I don't mean to take it away from you right in this moment, but my dad died of hairy cell leukemia, which is
Mm,
from Agent Orange. During that period of time when he died in the 80s, and I was 12 years old, they said no, the Agent Orange didn't cause that. Not
mhm,
until 20 years later did they say, oh, yeah, it's caused by all that. But at that point, half of those people were gone because it either killed you or it didn't kill you. Your family members are all grown up now, so there's no benefit for you. You follow me?
right,
So that's the
mhm,
government back then doesn't want to pay, doesn't want to do any of that stuff. It's different. They have to pay now. They need to pay now because that's what the money's there for.
mhm,
And I'm before we leave today, I'm gonna hook you up with the guy and please talk to him because the benefits your kids get, even if you're only 10% disabled, they can go to school for free.
hmm,
If you get more than that, they can go to school and get paid to go to school. So there's such a huge benefit. Tax, right? Don't pay property taxes, don't pay this, don't pay that. There's so much benefits along the line. And if you ever get a VA loan, which everybody should use their VA loan, you don't pay the funding fee. And that's huge.
mhm.
So
Yeah,
I don't care if you feel great. They're going to ask you he asked me some questions. He goes, even if it's a 1%, it's a yes or no. And I said, yes. And by the time we were done, I was at 760 points, and you need 200 points for 100% disability.
oh, wow.
Yeah. So that's just, but they don't teach you that when you get out. I went out through DAV, Disabled American Veterans down in San Diego. They don't, and they sent it in, and I got 10%. Well, I tried to find somebody to help me back 30 years ago, 20 years ago, 10 years ago,
Mhm.
and nobody was really doing it. Now everybody's doing it, and it's a better time for everybody. So you can go back.
Yeah.
Vietnam vets are going back and getting their disability money.
Oh, wow. That's good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I did have an injury to my shoulder there, just all the push-ups and stuff, it really ripped my shoulders up good, and, but I don't know. The VA acts like it's
That's
no big
20 or
deal, so
30% right there.
yeah.
Just on each I mean, the percentage wise, and I'm not one of those, but I just run into this all the time now,
Yeah.
and I'm like, okay, there's no reason they shouldn't be giving because 10% disabled is only $192. 50% is like almost 2 grand. 80% is 2,500, and 100% is almost 4 grand a month.
Hmm.
Plus, you
That's
get money
crazy.
per kid depending on the age of your kids.
Yeah.
So yeah, and I have a guy that does co-hosting on another one of my shows, and he was on the aircraft carriers with the air, all that stuff, hearing loss, all this stuff, and he's never applied. I'm like, and he's younger. I'm
Oh,
like, dude,
wow.
you have 4 kids who are babies still. You know how much money you could get? Because a friend of mine got 50% for sleep apnea
Hmm.
when he was getting out, and he gets to money for his kids each month. I, and a lot of us like, well, I just dealt with it and moved on.
Yeah. That's
Just like
kind
you
of
said,
my
there's nothing wrong with it.
mentality.
Well, my shoulders are bothering me, and I was over the burn pit, so I kinda have this now. You just
But,
listen.
that's
It's
no
not a big
big
deal.
deal.
I just
Just
have to use a
breathing
cane.
weird smoke.
I use a cane, no big deal. Alright, so
Just pull up your
I'm
boots and
going to hook you
go.
up with I'm gonna hook you up with he goes by, I guess Ranger Johnson, I think it is. Bear with me, it's one of those days. But I'll hook you
Well,
up with this information and have you I'll email you both when we're done here, and then he can
alright.
just talk to you and how they do it, and that it's totally different than everybody else. They coach you through everything. They charge you $1 up front, and then when you get your disability money, you owe them 5 grand, where a lot of companies take because what happens is if you put in for your disability now, it takes a year, you get that retroactivated. So you get all that money at one time. So you get a big check. So a lot of these companies are taking 20 to 30% of that. And that's a huge numbers.
Mhm.
These guys are like, we just coach you all the way through it. We're worth it one step at a time. And I even, like I said, I had my appointment with them today to go through that. So
Hmm.
yeah,
That's good, Ed, that you're such an advocate for, veterans. That's awesome.
we need to be. No one
Yeah.
else is.
Mhm.
I mean,
That's
we are, but I'm
Mhm.
talking there's a lot of people now going in the back in the government who are, but the last 4 years there hasn't been. There,
Mhm.
it's just if you can look at the VA system, how people are committing suicide in the parking lot again because they can't go get help because they have to no longer go get help and we'll worry about it later. It's now you got to get permission to go outside the system. No, we need to scrap the whole system and start over, but that's not this podcast. This is your podcast. So after
Thanks
you
for the
got
education.
yeah. So after you got out, now did you join in? Now you said you're in Arkansas.
Mhm.
Have you lived in Arkansas your whole life?
I grew up in Oklahoma,
Okay.
which isn't from where I lived, it's not that far from here, but yeah, I joined when I was in Oklahoma, and actually, my time in Italy and just being away from family after Italy, I was stationed at Fort Huachuca down in Arizona, and, from there, when I, got out, because you can go anywhere. Because then you're, like, brave enough, like, I can start I mean, because you're once you go to different duty stations, you kind of have to start your home all over again, so, really, you can choose anywhere, but just missing out on the family support and stuff, being a single parent, so I moved where my family was. So, came back here and ended up going back to school again and getting a degree in counseling and then following up and getting my license and doing all the requirements for that.
So what kind of counseling do you do?
I mainly do I work with people with anxiety and depression,
So
grief,
everybody.
trauma. Pardon me?
I said so everybody.
Yeah, basically. That's just where yes, a lot of people come to me for that, but I've done a few, military trainings for counselors just so I could work with veterans that come back as well. Um, Before the VA wasn't as well equipped to provide counseling and to help, um,
They
soldiers and such
they
with trauma,
still
but
they still are.
they've gotten better in my area. We do have a really good VA in Northwest Arkansas, and so, I've noticed just because I'm on that, I hear about that too, and as they beefed that department up over there, that I have had a lot less referrals, but oftentimes, military people do wanna come to somebody who's actually been in the military because they kinda get
They
it
get
a little bit more and know the lingo,
Yeah,
although
and they
my lingo's a
understand
little
what you've
outdated,
been
but
through. Yeah. It's
mhm,
like me,
yeah,
I'm in the
definitely.
mortgage industry. I prefer to help veterans because we're direct. We know what we each want to do, and we wanna get it done, and we move on. Not
Mhm.
everybody wants that. I mean, not everybody wants me to talk to them directly. They start crying, certain people, if I talk to them too directly. I don't yell at
Right,
'em, I'm just it's like, "This is how it is. There's nothing I can do about it."
right.
I'll
I
do
tend to
everything.
be pretty direct also, so if they can't handle that, then it's probably not a good fit.
Yeah, and you're in business for yourself?
Yes, I have my own private practice, yep.
Okay. So, since I've been running into this a lot lately, about 50% of the veterans I know are business owners, also some type of business owners. And one of the things, I have another podcast where I really focus on who is your perfect client. So when you said, all these people, but who is your perfect client? So who is the client that you enjoy working with on a daily basis? Who is that person?
I think it's the person that regardless of what they're struggling with, they're really motivated to change, and, like, they do all the stuff, they do the homework, they work hard, they're ready to implement different things in their life, like, those people I love to work with because they're the ones that see results. When they come in like, I want this," and then I help walk them through that, and they actually do the things that I'm encouraging or suggesting, and they change or get whatever they wanted to get out of counseling, those are the people that I love to work with.
And who are those people? I mean, there's gotta be what I'm getting at is I always do this because I love helping people find out that perfect. Because for me, working with veterans or veteran business owners are, like, perfect for me.
Mhm,
The other one is reverse mortgage people, older, people 62 or older who wanna get their dignity back because they don't have enough money and they don't wanna borrow from
mhm,
family, but they need to be able to stay in their home for the rest of their life and not have to worry about it. I love helping them because it just changes their whole trajectory. Just like when I help a veteran buy a house, it changes the family dynamics
mhm,
going forward.
mhm,
And you talked about duty stations. I want every veteran to buy a place at every duty station they're at and use their VA loan to do that because you can.
mhm, mhm.
That's how you build passive income down the road. I'm not saying get a ton of them, but there's stuff you can do to protect that I wasn't taught. I wasn't told
Yes,
that now can
mhm,
be done.
yes, that's good. I know there's a lot of things we weren't taught, right? That we just learn by experience.
And time, and I wish I would have known it earlier than I do
Mhm.
now.
Yes, me too.
But now I can teach my
Definitely.
kids. My son bought his first house at 21 at
That's
yeah,
awesome.
up in Washington, not Alaska, but in Washington State. And
Mhm,
and where it's at, I'm like, "You'll never sell this place. Don't ever sell this place. Rent it or whatever, and move to your next duty station and buy a new one there." And
mhm.
because you with the VA, you will be able to. So,
Yeah, that's awesome. That's good advice. Well, I wouldn't have been able to get my first house without the VA also, so I'm thankful for them.
and since the Blue Water Act changed it 3 years ago now, God, time flies. It's so much better. It's than it
Hmm,
ever has been. Because I remember I could never use mine up until '98 because it never matched to the prices of homes in California.
right. Wow.
Now it does. So,
Mhm.
because you can go up to 2.5 million with them now.
Whoa.
Yeah, not that you want that payment with no money down, but
No.
but
Or
you could.
how I think about it is, that's a lot to clean. I don't wanna clean that much.
Well, that's why I like tell a lot of vets, when you buy your first place, buy a fourplex or a triplex or a duplex, live in one of them, rent out the other ones, and then eventually when you move to the next duty station, do it again. Because
Mhm.
that way, you can buy that place as long as you can afford the payment. You can't use the rents to offset to qualify. which I
Right.
think it all has to do with the VA loan and how it can only be with a vet or spouse or another vet, how
Mhm.
that's worked out. They've never explained why, but that's what I assume.
Yeah.
So all right, so we never got back to who that perfect client is for you. So if you don't want to answer it, just think about that. So you can only attract those people so that you love what you do all the time. And a lot
That's
of us don't know how to do that. And that being in business, you really need to focus on that and stop worrying about niching down too low because you're just trying to get your message just to those people. Not to say you can't take other people too. I'm just saying, but your message needs to just go to those people.
right. Well, I'm a Christian counselor, so that's also my perfect, client that they're a Christian, but I help people that aren't. But I'm full, so I don't need to build my business anymore. So
Good.
I
Well,
don't work a whole lot, like, now it's just, people come to me, I'm full, and that's fine with me.
you could always take it to the next level and do group coaching.
That or, like, expand a practice, but I'm 57, so I just don't have the same ambitions that I did when I was younger. So, it's just going kind of a different direction for me, and I'm thinking more about, like, "Okay, I don't wanna get big," and yeah,
That's why the
and
group
my
coaching is where it's
Mhm,
because I know people who no longer will do individual people. They wanna do a group setting only.
mhm.
That
Yeah,
way they have more of their own time. Ever since the pandemic, I think everybody's been, "How do I do more and 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 have more time also at the same time?" And I know a lot of people who are in businesses that I know, and they're helping a lot of people. Well, they will no longer do individual coaching, doesn't matter the price. They
right.
only wanna do a group coaching 1 or 2 days a week, 1
Hmm.
hour. They take care of, 30 to 60 people, and they're
Wow.
done.
Mhm.
So,
Well, that's one of the reasons I've just, like, recently started a podcast. I haven't even advertised it or anything, but,
what's the name of your
because
podcast?
it's called Healthy and Redeemed. It's basically helping people work on their emotional health and, so we can get healthy and relate to people in healthy ways. And, but that's mainly why I started that, just so that I could reach, if people are interested and
Mhm.
they live in another state but they want to work on their mental health from a Christian perspective, that would be something that they could do. Of
Right,
course,
and
it's
what
I'm not getting paid, but, that's part like, I don't really care about all that, which is sad, but
no, because my
just wanna
wife
help
asked
people.
I do so much. Well, my radio show brings in 50% of my business for what I do for mortgages.
Mhm,
But my other podcast, I did because I wanted to understand people, and from that, I've gotten so much, from
mhm,
that. Many different things, learned many different things, and just recently, like going for my disability and getting that worked out. That was from a
mhm,
podcast. I mean, there's so many things
mhm,
you learn from it. But what I'm getting at is you can then at that point, because I have people ask me all the time, how do I start a podcast? What equipment do I need? I get people on here and they don't have a really good mic. They have, and please don't take this wrong, they have a headset like you do, which is difficult. It's about, and I try to explain to them, you can buy all the equipment you need, amazing camera, amazing mic for $300. And,
right,
a lot of people, I mean, you have to invest in that equipment. A
mhm.
lot of people think they gotta invest more, and then so I created a list, and then now I'm finishing up my course for helping people do podcasting
Good.
because a lot of people are asking it, and I'm like, "Okay, well, I wanna put a course together. What do I need? What do you need?" And then people have been
Mhm.
telling me, and so now it's like I finally did it. So,
Good. I do have a big old microphone over there. It's just so hard to set up.
I just
I
hope it's
just
not
like
this
this so much better.
this microphone.
Oh,
One of the
yeah.
Blue Yetis.
Yes.
Don't ever buy a Blue Yeti.
I've heard that on other people's. I'm trying to think what mine is,
Well,
but
everybody's told
it's
to get that because it's an overall microphone that picks up sound, but
yeah.
it picks up all the sound because
Oh,
it's
yeah, that's what I've read.
condenser, not a
Mhm.
dynamic. I talk
Yeah,
about all the time, you wanna have a dynamic mic that just picks up right here.
yeah,
My American Bully's down there snoring like nobody's business, and if I was on one of those other ones, you'd be hearing it.
yeah. That's what I think. I was on a podcast and it was picking I think I was using the microphone. I can't remember what I was using, but it picked up all the background. I was like, "Oh my gosh, I'll never do that again." So, this is a lot better.
Mhm.
for me, at least people can't hear what's going on in the background, so
Yeah, it's
that's
actually not a
good.
bad one because I've
Yeah,
had other people who have the other one and I'm like, "Okay, this is horrible. Get rid of this. Please
yeah,
do something better."
yeah.
And it's just if you're gonna do a headset, just it has to have a dynamic mic, not a condenser mic. That's the
Mhm. Good. Podcasting 101. I mean, I didn't know that, but
yeah, well, I'm just telling you,
you did. That's
I've
a
been
free
doing it
tip for people.
forever. And
Yeah.
one of my so I came up with Pod Veteran as the name of the place to do it, but I also have,
Oh, good.
so not only is it a play on words because I'm a veteran in one realm, but I'm also a veteran in the radio and podcasting arena from doing it for so long.
Mm,
So
good.
that's where it's going to be under because I have my media company is called Big Hangry Media because I was always called Big Hangry because I don't know, I guess hangry all the time. So I turned it in,
That's kind of we're all that at some level,
that's
right?
right. All right, Healy, it was nice having you on the show today. So
It's nice meeting you.
you're not really looking for people, but you possibly are me looking for people. When is your podcast out right now?
It is out right now. I just probably released it like 2 or 3 weeks ago. So I've just kind of committed I'm not gonna, advertise it just so I can get comfortable doing it and I can believe that no one's listening. I mean, it's okay, just don't let me know.
Well, no, that's okay.
I'm still working up my, confidence in this new gig, but I mean, my desire is always to help people and I yeah, I mean, that's why I do so much stuff for free because, like, I really do wanna help people, and I think mental health is one of those things that, we really need to get a handle on, and there are some things that are easy to do, so I just wanna help.
Well, I'm glad that you're out there helping people.
Yeah.
But do you want anybody to find you? Or, I mean, that's
Sure.
the thing, 'cause, a lot of times people go, yeah, they can find me at, I'm on social media. I'm at whatever, or if you say the name of your pod. So have you put it up to anywhere yet? Where you
It
just
is on, I think, every platform except YouTube. So, I don't have a well, I do have a private channel, but I don't have and I wasn't really sure because I wasn't gonna put my face on. I was just gonna do the audio with the little, um, you know, podcast cover art. But I don't know that I'm gonna do that right now just because I don't know. It seems hard. But, yeah, but I'm on every other podcast that I mean, Spotify or Apple or iHeart, I
all right,
mean,
and so
whatever
the
all the
people by the
ones.
name of her podcast again is
Healthy and Redeemed,
Healthy
and
and
yeah,
Redeemed.
and my name's Healy Ikerd, and, my website is writtenbyhealy.com. And so that was my author, website, and so when I first was doing the author thing, I wasn't, thinking about doing a podcast. I mean, I had it in the back of my mind, but I didn't really think so that's why the name's different, but all my podcasts are there also.
Well, is there another Healy Ikerd out there?
I don't I don't think so. There are
If
some
not,
Heelys
then
and
go
there are
get
some
that. Just
Ikerds, but there's
what I
not
would
too much.
just tell you to do, go get that domain and just use that domain for everything. Instagram, Facebook, any place you're going to be at, just use that if you can get it. I have a unique name. That's why I'm Ed Parcaut everywhere. So if somebody wants to
Mm,
find me, it's just Ed Parcaut everywhere.
yeah. Well, if people Google my name, my, um, my private practice pops up and so does I use GoDaddy, so they must have great analytics or whatever it takes to pull up on search engines, but normally if you Google my name, it's easy to find me, but yes, I've been debating about getting my name as a domain,
You
but
should.
I already pay for 2, so that
You
seems
should.
like, oh, that seems excessive.
Another $20 a year.
Yeah. Well, when you're not making much, when everything's free, Ed, 20 bucks is hard.
No, because the reason I'm saying that is up until that point, I didn't realize how important it is to get your name on every social media site, everything, even
Mhm.
if you don't use it, just go get it there so you have it before somebody else comes up potentially with that name. I used to be just Parcaut, and then my son stole Parcaut, one of the new sites, and then I had to go to
Mm.
Ed Parcaut. So yeah, he was like, "Oh, I got this first." I'm like, "Okay, I have to go to Ed Parcaut," which is
Yeah.
okay. But Healy, thank you so much for being on the show today and telling your story. I appreciate it. And
Yes, sir.
best of luck in what you're trying to do, and especially with your podcast.
Thank
You're
you.
just got to get to a point where you'd feel the same way as you do in your practice. You're here to help, and you just don't care if somebody doesn't like what you do. And that comes with time. It does. It really does. Eventually you'll
Yeah.
get there. Cause I remember the first couple years and on radio is horrible. I can't even listen to those episodes, but now it's so much easier because I just finally got to a point where I care, but I don't care because you're going to mess up. There's nothing, you're going to say
Right.
something, blah, blah, and you just, okay, we'll move on from there.
Right.
And nobody wants a perfect podcast. So don't take any oohs and ahs and any of the stuff out of it. Just leave it all in there. Because eventually you'll stop doing it. Because there's a lot of people who'll take that out, and all of a sudden there's will be like to skip in the thing. It's like, okay, what did they take out?
You took out the beep. Well, that's what I normally do, and I'm like, oh, I totally lost my train of thought.
Whatever worked. Yeah, no one. I mean, that's people want like reality. If you watch
And
Joe
yes.
Rogan the other day, he was having issues with the thing. They left it in.
Yeah, that's good. That's I mean, that's what I hear so much from, people want you to be authentic and, just who you are because nobody's perfect and we all say the ums and the, other little things.
I agree.
So, yeah.
And
I
it's just
agree.
like speaking on stage. You got to get to a point where you eventually stop. You understand that you do that. Dramatic pauses are the best because people don't know if you're really supposed to do that or if you're just doing it to get to your next train of thought. Nobody
Mhm.
understands that.
That's right.
It was nice meeting you. If I could ever help you, let me know. If
Thank
you
you
need
very
help on
much.
anything with your podcast, reach out. And I mean that, just reach out. I can help you with anything. You have
Mm.
questions or whatever, just text me or whatever. Because I think you
Okay.
have my numbers because the email has all my information in it.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that.
Thank you. Thank you for being on the show today.
Yes, sir.